Hello, this is David Shays of Shays Holistics. Welcome to another Insights video. Now before I begin, many of you know that I am colorblind, and Deborah's not here to make sure that I'm color matched, so I'm hoping that this shirt matches this sweater. If it doesn't, I guess you can have some entertainment from that. Anyway, today's video is about Johari windows, sometimes called Johari's windows. It's a very useful model that's used in psychology, in counseling, in marketing, and in business. It's a way of looking at information that we receive and being able to understand it better. So with that, I want you to know that there's an article already written on this, I think back in 2020, and it is titled, Windows of Self, Faces We Show, Hide, and Cannot See. Of course, this video is just an abbreviated version of that. It's called Windows of Self. So with that, I'm going to begin. Now, if you read the article, I left the Windows graphic in there, the Johari's window graphic, because it makes it easy to reference, and it's abbreviated. If you want the full article, I do recommend reading it because I go into quite some detail. But oftentimes at spiritual events, people will ask me, well, what do my guides have to say? What do the angels have to say? What does my higher guidance have for me to know? And what's useful is to understand our part in receiving that information. So I'm going to talk about it. In Johari's windows, there are 4 windows panes. It's a box and it's broken into 4 quadrants. I'm going to do it hopefully backwards. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And hopefully I list these in the correct order, but the idea is still the same. The first window is information that we know about ourselves and others also know. Something as simple as our name. We know our name and others know our name. The second window is things that we know about ourselves that others do not know. Now these can be secrets, but they can also just be basic confidences, things that we want to use better discretion about and we don't necessarily share. Then the third window are things that others know about us that we do not know. For example, the friend that we have at the party who isn't aware that he's always talking too much and he takes away from other people's enjoyment of a conversation, that sort of thing. These are attributes about ourselves that others know that we're perhaps blind to. It's called facade, I believe, in Johari's windows. And then, of course, the fourth quadrant is things neither we nor others know about ourselves, about us. That is our proverbial Achilles heel. And it's often where a lot of our learning happens. Quadrants 3 and 4 are where our learning happens. So with that in mind, I'd like to share a little story and I'm going to give you some context for it. As many of you know, I had a career in the Navy. And when I was stationed in Hawaii, I had a friend who was dating a woman, and their relationship was okay, but it wasn't great. Let's just say she wasn't Miss Right, and that's how he thought about it. He was looking for Miss Right. Anyway, he asked me, he said, he knew that I did this, tuned into guides and I could talk to them, and he said, well, when am I going to meet Miss Right? And I said, well, let me see. And I checked, and it looked like it was going to happen in 6 months or so. It's hard to tell time on the inner plane. But his higher guidance also told me, don't tell him. He should not know this information. It is not good for him to know it. Well, my left brain took over, and I just felt like that was information. If I knew it, it would be beneficial for him to know it. I didn't heed the advice or the direction of his higher guidance, and I told him. Well, unbeknownst to me, sometime after that, within probably 1 or 2 weeks, he went and he dumped his girlfriend. He figured, why stay with her? Miss Right is coming along here in 6 months or so, and I'll just wait for her. So fast forward 6 months or so, and there's no Miss Right in his life. And he came back to me and says, listen, you said that I was going to meet Miss Right here in 5 or 6 months, maybe 7, and it's been over 6 months, almost 7, and there's no sign of anyone. So I went and checked in with his higher guidance. And what I found out was that I should have heeded the advice of the guides, of his higher guidance. And it was his guides and his high self for that information for those who want to know. And he needed to stay with the woman he was dating at the time, because in dating her and going out with her, it was going to show him both the characteristics he didn't want in a relationship, as well as being able to help him identify the attributes of the person who had the right characteristics. By dating her, it showed him both those things that he didn't want and those things that he did want. But because he dumped her, he never learned those lessons, and he never met Miss Right. Now, when I checked in sometime after that, I'd say a year later, he eventually met someone. He was stationed in, went to another duty station overseas, and he eventually met someone who was very good for him. But when I checked in, and this can happen in our lives, we have people that we can meet, and we can marry this person, or we have, you could say, plan A, plan B, plan C for some people. Now others, it's not that way. They have just one person they plan on marrying, and that's what happens. But in his case, he had a plan A, plan B, and plan C. So with that said, he met another woman, and she was very good for him, and they had a wonderful relationship. But as I checked in with his higher guidance, and I checked in with Miss Wright's higher guidance, she would have been more ideal for him in this lifetime for learning the lessons that he came to learn. But it wasn't like this wasn't part of his life plan. Again, he had a plan B. But that really taught me an important lesson. So when information comes through from people's higher guidance, and the people that know me, sometimes I don't have a very good poker face. All of a sudden, I'll start getting the information, and I'll be just about ready to spill the beans, so to speak. And they say, stop. And I say, oh, I can't tell you. And of course, that makes them want to know the information even more. But it really is for the highest good. And I learned that the hard way, because I really felt like I did my friend, my very good friend, a disservice by not following his higher guidance. I'll call them recommendations, but they really were almost like a commandment. Don't do it. If you do, you'll be sorry, and I was. So when information comes through, I try to give it to the context of, if the guides tell me something and I'm aware that the person knows it, I'll see in what way they know it. The universe and the divine and their higher guidance will share that with me oftentimes, and I try to provide it in the context of how they think. So if it's in window 1, something they already know, fine. If it's window 2, where it's something they know about themselves, but others do not know, the piece of information that came through, or that comes through, might be something that we don't talk about in mixed company. And you'll see this on the Shays Insights videos we do monthly, as well as what's coming up with the radio program we're going to do on the 19th of this month, our very first one. Anyway, I've talked about that. But I will say, listen, we can talk about this. Please give me a call, send me an email, we'll talk about it, because I don't want to share that information because it could be very sensitive. If it's in quadrants 3 and 4, this is where a lot of people have issues. The guides will say something, and when the guides tell us something, they know us well. They can see all the hidden parts of us. You could say oftentimes they know us better than we know ourselves. And so they say, you are, I don't know, impatient. And the person might say, well, no, I'm not. I'm a very patient person. But this is one of the quadrant 3 is the things that others know about ourselves that we don't know. And perhaps some of his or her friends won't know that that person's impatient, but the person doesn't see it themselves. So I try to couch it in terms so that they can understand this is a part of yourself that you're blind to, or that you may not see accurately. Just think about it, so that they don't just reject it off the cuff or offhand, but you actually give it some consideration. If it's in the 4th quadrant, see, that would be your 4th quadrant down here in the corner, your lower right-hand corner. If it comes in where it's something that neither they nor others know about themselves, obviously our guides know because they can see all the inner hidden secrets, then try to present that information in yet another way, to say this is something that you are not yet aware of. It's buried in your subconscious. It's been part of perhaps a past life. It showed up then, but it's not here now. And just think about it and set your intentions to be shown this, and in a way that will work for you. And when you do that, when people do that, then they can receive the information, the guides can bring it through for them in a way that makes sense. Perhaps it'll be some radio program, an ad on TV, somebody, a friend or a colleague will say something off the cuff that will be just the right word sentence that keys them in to say, oh, that's what we're talking about. So that's the nature of Johari's Windows, and I just thought I'd share that to give you context about how information comes through. For those who already ask me questions, you're probably already aware of it. But it's so important that if we are someone who can bring in this kind of information, give it context so that the other person can receive it and hear it. If we don't provide the information in a positive way or in a way that can be heard, sometimes the person will reject that when they would have otherwise heard it. And so with that foreknowledge, we can be more effective bringing things through for others. So I thought I would share that. That's this week's Shays Insights video. And until next time, blessings, light, and love.